Let me guess, you signed up for every free lead magnet and binged on every marketing YouTube video and thought, what am I missing? Why isn't my business exploding like that? Well, I can tell you, you're not alone. Whether you're just getting started or have an established business, entrepreneurship can be really lonely. But it doesn't have to be. Overcoming your fear of launching or building your personal brand or figuring out how to scale, it shouldn't be holding you back. It should be empowering you. On this podcast, we're going to deep dive into the mechanics of what it takes to build your brand, make your mark, and stake your claim in the digital marketing space. I'll be chatting with people from all walks of life and stages in their careers. I will be getting inspiration from real experts who will share their actual strategies and techniques to grow loyal and raving followings and sell more stuff. This is entrepreneurship from people who are already there making it happen. My name is Jeff Mendelson. Join me and welcome to the One Big Tip podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Jeff Mendelson, and this is the One Big Tip podcast. And today I am pleased to have Nelson Toriano on the line with me. Nelson is a personal trainer, an entrepreneur, an MBA grad, and he's also an educator. He teaches not only about personal training, but also about financial education. So I think that this is going to be a really interesting conversation on what people need to know, not only about running their own personal businesses, personal trainers, anyone who's freelancing for themselves, but also for many other businesses that do need to grow. So Nelson, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Nelson, can you please take a few minutes to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are today? Because not a lot of people go from personal trainer to money expert.
No, I'm a unicorn in my industry, needless to say.
Exactly.
So I'm the CEO of a financial education company and a career development company that's dedicated to personal trainers. I've been in the fitness industry for a very long time, for almost 2 decades, but my academic background comes from business. I also have a master's in business administration. I have some other lines of business. So as I progressed as a personal trainer, because that was my side hustle, I got to a point in my career I actually wanted to pursue fitness full time. When I started pursuing fitness full time, the pay is not that great. I live in California, and so it's kind of hard to make a living, but it took me a while and some hustling. But a lot of my coworkers were quitting regularly. And so when I started analyzing why the fitness industry has such a high attrition rate, it really boils down to the lack of financial and business education. So a lot of personal trainers are trained in kinesiology, physiology, sports medicine, and they are trained in sales and marketing, making them really good employees. But in reality, a lot of them want to be CEOs, 1099s, independent contractors. So they try to make this this leap from sales and marketing training all the way up into the mindset of a CEO, which, as any entrepreneur, any listeners, if you're entrepreneurs, that could be a very steep learning curve, and there's a lot to learn. So a lot of them end up quitting altogether because the amount of work and the amount of skill sets required can be daunting. So I try to fill in the gap by teaching, hey, this is how businesses operate. These are the structures, here are the financial statements, etc.
What's really interesting here is that most freelancers, once they start getting a regular book of business, one of the first contractors that they need to hire for themselves is an accountant or a bookkeeper.
Yes.
Someone to help them with the with just keeping the numbers straight. Now,
yes,
you would think that everyone is, oh yeah, I know how to balance my checkbook, but there's so much more than that, right?
Yes.
There's so much more going on, and you need to be able to explain both to yourself. I mean, you need to see the right financial picture for yourself, but also to others, right? So if you're going to start selling a product or you're going to start selling a course, you need to make sure that you have all of this information, in front of you. So
yes.
Your one big tip, right, is talking about the different types of reports, the different types of information you need to have on hand in order to be a successful entrepreneur, whether it's a personal trainer or anyone else starting out. What's your one big tip?
It's going to be those financial statements. So I like to pose it to personal trainers because they have this mindset and this vernacular that is so akin to the fitness industry. And in our industry, we have this form that we have to fill out called Physical Activity Readiness Questionnaire. And it's basically a questionnaire that we have our clients fill out, and it collects data points of where they are in terms of their health. That gives us a broader perspective of how to create a growth plan. take that same thought process, and we have the same forms in business. So the actual structures I recommend, and this is my tip, is to get familiar with the cash flow statement, with the balance sheet, and with the P&L, your net income statement. Because those are data points, those are report cards, and you can't grow a business until you actually know where you are in terms of finances. Understand how you are getting the revenue into the business, and know that there's a difference between revenue and income. Then once you understand the difference between income, you actually understand the concepts of cost of goods sold, of profit margin, how to do your projections in the long term, 1 quarter, 2 quarters by the end of the year. You start developing this vernacular, then now you can better communicate to the key players who will help you actually construct the actual business, which are people like your accountant, your CPA, your tax strategist, even some business advisor. Because if you are an entrepreneur, you're more than just a personal trainer. You are now a CEO, and you're going to be networking with other entrepreneurs. You have to be able to talk the same language. And the same language that goes across the board, no matter what industry you're in, it boils down to the accounting. So the first entry point into this wonderful world of accounting, yes, QuickBooks. QuickBooks is our down and dirty. It will automatically systemize your expenses and your receipts, etc. Just link it up with your bank accounts. But personal trainers who want to grow a business are going to get to the point of scalability that you're going to need to delegate some of these tasks to people who are more well-versed than you. But you are responsible for being able to communicate with that person on your power team. So first and foremost, know those 3 financial statements that will always report on the health of your business.
So one thing that that came to mind, you need to also change the mindset of how you are actually reporting your finances both to yourself and to your accountant, right? Because, your accountant is just going to give you, the information that you give him.
Yep.
But if you're using your personal debit card for business expenses,
yes,
or the reverse, you're using your business debit card for all that personal stuff for, for every meal that you go out for.
Yep.
Or putting gas in your car.
Yep.
There are a lot of ways that you can sort of, that you can fudge the numbers here, if you will. And sometimes you're even you're doing that as a detriment to yourself.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you take somebody who is, first of all, I would say they would have like a volatile workload, right? Because if you lined up, let's say, for example, you have 20 regular clients, I would assume that in any given month, 2 or 3 of those are going to cancel next week. Things are going to go, things are always going to be in flux. So how do you talk to people and get them to think about their revenue in regular terms as opposed to, well, geez, I don't know, I got 6 clients scheduled next week, I expect to have 8, like, how do you get them past, that mind block of, yes, you do have a regular business, and yes, you do have a regular thing, and this is how you should be planning for it.
Absolutely. One of the great things about training trainers is they're honestly used to data points. They're honestly looking at growth charts and anything. So getting their expenses and automating their payment methods is as easy as just exporting statements, but then exporting in CSV and then compiling everything into an Excel spreadsheet so we can actually see, number of sessions per the client and how much revenue is generated per that client. And so once we start getting those columns straight and basically aggregating all of the sources, you could get it through Venmo, you get it through your PayPal, people get it through all these different ways. But as long as you have this one report, this one Excel document, it helps alleviate a lot of the stress, because a lot of the deep root cause, a lot of people are not moving in terms of thinking about finances, that they're just honestly overwhelmed. There's such a variety of clients every single personal trainer is working with, and all of these different ways of communication, that they just need this funnel, this one Excel spreadsheet. So take that day and look at every single method that you have in terms of payment and just compile one single report. That'll alleviate, I would say, probably 90% of the stress level. Now, once we take a look at, okay, this is the number of sessions, this is the number, this is your rate per that client, we can start piggybacking and seeing if there's any disconnect between clients, how much revenue is actually generated. Because once you actually get to the revenue portion, then we'll have a totally separate discussion. Okay, how much does it really cost you? Okay, how much is like Zoom? How much is your cell phone bill? How much is your time worth and things like that? Those all calculate into cost of goods sold. Here's all the opportunity costs. So that's a longer discussion. That will go into a one-on-one. I say I had to take several days because now that is start shifting the mindset. That skill is regularly not taught. So once we start quantifying all the different factors that goes into cost of goods sold, depending on their knowledge base of their taxes, depending on their knowledge base of
taxes, that
investments, and we do have to do a little bit of research. Where do you live? How much was your tax payment? Okay, is all of your money being reported on your last year's filing? Then we're going to have probably a third conversation, because all of that ends up into net income. So I would say two-thirds of the conversation is going to be more hand-holding, because they're just not used to it. Not that many people want to talk about their taxes. Not many people have that mindset of talking about cost of goods sold, but nonetheless, these are pertinent items for any type of entrepreneur. So it's going to be a 1/3 of just automating into an Excel spreadsheet, 2/3 literally hand-holding and educating them. This is where I come in.
Awesome. Now, Nelson, why don't you tell people where people can find you and how they can reach out and learn more?
Sure. My website is CoachNellyToriano.com. Coach Nelly Toriano is also my Instagram handle. You can find me on Twitter as well. Hey, I'm on Twitter. I finally figured out how to automate Twitter. But if you find me on LinkedIn or on Facebook, that's my proper name, Nelson E. Toriano.
Nelson, thank you very much for coming here. This was all great. Great information and a lot of actionable advice. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me.